Hi guys, this is Moz, this is Asim. We're introducing ourselves for the 15th time, I guess, and now we're gonna be doing this in English, however.
Yeah, because we realized okay, when the titles are in English and we're talking in Urdu, the algorithm doesn't do us many favors. So we're gonna stick to one language, and since it's the global language,
Yeah, it's
so,
terrible writing like captions in Urdu, like the
Yeah.
titles of the videos. It's very difficult. I'm sorry. So we're moved permanently to English. We'll be explaining all the things in English just so we can have like a more global audience. We got dreams. We got a shit studio. We need to improve it. So the idea is to get as many of you as possible to
Yeah.
understand what cryptocurrencies are and
Exactly.
to engage with us, and hopefully we have a decent community building from there. So what is this channel essentially, right? So like in the sense that the reason why we made this is because even before I joined the crypto space, I would have crypto bros approaching me and go like, hey man, want some NFT? And scratching themselves and go like, yeah, I got this profit, there's been a dip, I bought the dip, I sold at a profit, I tripled my money, I got to the moon. So many random things. And I had my friends criticize me, go like, hey man, so you're basically just a crypto bro now.
Yeah.
The idea is that you know these people exist,
Exactly.
you live with them, you interact with them, but every time you try and understand what cryptocurrencies are, it's an endless well. Like just describe your journey briefly. Like if you were to find out about crypto, what do you see?
Yeah,
What's your login?
for most people, their first step into the crypto space is through Bitcoin because that's the thing you hear about first. And you're like, what's Bitcoin? I want to search Bitcoin. And you fall into the rabbit hole and then you keep going down of Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, and all these other blockchains. And you're like, oh my God, what's blockchain, cryptography? And that rabbit hole just never ends. And what people find is that after spending a sufficient amount of time on the internet trying to learn this stuff, more often than not, they're more confused afterwards than they were in the start.
Yeah, because you see random people
Yeah,
go
yeah.
like, Bitcoin's gonna go to 60, and
Yeah.
on the same day, like for just the past 2 days, the tweets, half of them are saying we're gonna go to 7,000, half of them are gonna go saying we're gonna go to 40,000, and I'm just watching and I'm like, none of you know what you're talking about, right? So like everybody that's joined the space is like misled
Yeah.
by their initial encounter with crypto, and then sort of just puts them off. Like, should I really be curious about it
Exactly.
or not?
And just to clarify, our point over here isn't that we understand cryptocurrency so we can predict the market. No one can tell what the market's
Yeah,
going to do.
market's pretty good.
The reason we are making these videos is to connect the technical side, the technology of cryptocurrencies and the implication into the real world markets, and to give them to you in an easy to digest package so that you are comfortable whenever you make investment decisions based off of your own research.
Yeah, and basically, like, even before you get into this, right, there's some preliminary things that you have to understand about cryptocurrencies. First, it's kind of like a pyramid scheme in the sense that if I tell you about it and you tell your friends about it and you keep telling more and more people about it, the more people get involved in this technology, the more likely it is that it becomes like a permanent asset that's actually valuable.
Yeah, and unlike a pyramid scheme, every
Yeah.
every organization that depends on its network kind of acts like a pyramid scheme.
In a sense that it
Yeah,
needs
like
more
if
people.
you think about Facebook, for example, if there were like only 100 people on Facebook, you wouldn't want to sign up. But since all of your friends are on Facebook, there's like a peer pressure of sorts that you want to join as
We
well.
got a boomer over here, dude. Facebook died 2 years ago, but the point still stands.
Yeah, so
You need people to be there, and that's kind of like what the vibe is with cryptocurrencies. as
exactly.
well.
Because it's a network technology.
It's a network technology, and that's where we get what Bitcoin essentially is, right? So like, what is the foundational principle of Bitcoin? Like, how does it work? Why is it something that was groundbreaking? Like every time I hear it's like blockchain, ledger, Bitcoin, transparent.
Yeah.
You need this right now. So what is happening?
I think the best way to approach this point is that you need to first understand that Bitcoin and every cryptocurrency is an application of an underlying technology called the blockchain. So the first thing that you should do is understand what a blockchain is. If you know what that is, everything else kind of makes sense. Now, I'll get to the name blockchain after I explain the concept a little bit, and it'll be more intuitive, okay,
Yeah.
why it's named the way it is. How a blockchain works is that instead of having a single record of what everyone is doing at one place, every single participant of a market has a record of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And every new transaction that takes place, everybody records it. Okay? So
It's kind of like a ledger, basically.
it is a ledger.
But an online ledger.
It's a decentralized ledger. It's a record book that everyone has.
This is how I understood it when I first saw it, right? So it was that everybody's got their own wallets, digital wallets are set up, and what you're doing is once you're making transactions or once you're purchasing Bitcoin, essentially every computer that's trading Bitcoin has a sort of ledger that's on it, kind of like a receipt,
Yes.
right? So like if I send money to Asim, it's gonna say that this wallet sent this much money, this much Bitcoin to this wallet.
Exactly.
And it's not just you and I who get a copy of the receipt.
Exactly.
But
It's
it's
everybody.
everybody that's on the network gets a copy of the receipt.
And a bunch of those receipts are bundled together into, just think of it like an imaginary folder. Okay, these 70 receipts or payments and receipts happened in the last 10 minutes. We're gonna file them together and add them to the existing ledger. That this block of receipts has been added to all the previous blocks using a hash algorithm, forming a blockchain.
Alright, so there's like a series, basically the blockchain is like a series of transactions.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons why this is such an important thing to understand is because this principle is the reason it's so hard to have fraudulent transactions. Aji saab अंग्रेजी थोड़ी कमजोर है.
Fraud system, that's good.
Yeah, because you can't add a new transaction into an existing blockchain, because if you change any transaction that has happened in the past, the hash algorithm breaks, and it's like the entire chain after that manipulation is now ruined.
Because every computer sort of has to verify this transaction is happening.
Exactly.
If they've got no record of it, they'll be like, yo, you're kind of messing around here.
Yeah.
So like essentially what it allows for is like to get like a trustworthy system where it's also sort of transparent, so you can follow transactions that are happening. You can't artificially just add money. Something that's very difficult to wrap your head around in the start especially is the fact that a lot of the things that the governments are doing right now all over the world, right? So this isn't something that's specific to any particular country, it's happening all over the world. Is when they're launching a particular project, even if the government doesn't have money, it just straight up prints the money and then injects that into the economy and says, all right, this is a project that we're undertaking, we got this new money, let's put it in to an infrastructure development project or something. But it's money that didn't exist with the government before, right? And so if that new money is added, the pressure or like the responsibility of bringing that money back falls on the population.
Exactly.
Because their money is devalued essentially.
Yes.
Right? So like it's kind of like, it's something that happens, right? So you will never know this, but every time the state's taking a project or sets up a project, it almost always, it never actually takes the money that's directly taken from you in the form of tax. It has to be more fast.
It's sort of an invisible tax, because whenever the government prints any amount of money and the money that you have is devalued because of that printing, if you look at the background mechanics of it, it is very similar to them just straight up asking you to give them the money.
Yeah, but like they don't do it like that.
Yeah, they don't do it like that because that would be political suicide. Yeah. So what they do is an underhanded move of printing money and devaluing the nation's money supply and taxing us unknowingly. We don't know it, they know it. Taxing us and then using that money to, let's say, develop infrastructure projects. And that's a good thing. That can work. If it's done and managed properly, that is a very efficient system.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. It's not done efficiently. It's not done in a trustworthy manner. So there lies the problem with fiat as a whole, that it can easily be manipulated by governments and banks.
So can you say the reason why fiat is a little dangerous here is the volatility that comes associated with the supply of the currency in essence? Because you can alter the supply, you can add more artificial.
Supply manipulation is the fundamental problem of fiat currencies.
And here's where Bitcoin comes in. We should have like holy music play here. Bitcoin! Here's where Bitcoin comes in, right? Because what Bitcoin does is Bitcoin stops you from doing that. There's a fixed supply.
Exactly. There's 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. And with every wallet lost with Bitcoin in it, the supply will only reduce.
Yeah, the supply is gone.
And
If you forgot your wallet's password or key, it's gone.
It's gone. But the saving grace in that story is that if you lose your Bitcoins and there's a finite supply, the Bitcoin that is still available increases in value. And since Bitcoin is digital cash, you can basically infinitely
Reduce it, yeah. So like
Yeah.
you can say
yeah,
0.0001 Bitcoin.
you can reduce the denomination to like one trillionth of one Bitcoin, I guess, and I think that can even go even further. The point is, having only 21 million Bitcoins will not hamper the growth of an economy because having more money doesn't mean having a bigger economy, having strong money does. And Bitcoin is the strongest form of money that we have yet created as humanity.
Yeah, so and essentially like also with the integration of technology, with the fact that now we're using our phones more and more for payment purposes. You've got QR scanners, you've got NFC payments. I think Apple's developed their own
Yeah,
version
in
as
fact,
well. You
most-
tap your phone.
Yeah,
and you've
yeah.
done your
In fact,
payment.
most of the technology, if Bitcoin is implemented on a large enough scale, a lot of people won't even notice it.
They won't notice it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because it's and so basically, like essentially, there's two things, right? We've understood. One, the thing with Bitcoin is that any transaction that's made, everybody that's on the network has a copy of it. So the more and more people that become involved with Bitcoin, the more transparent transactions become on a large scale.
Yeah.
Right, so like the more people cannot be manipulating
Yeah.
or arbitrarily moving their money to
Yeah.
shady places.
Exactly. The more people join the network, the stronger the network becomes, incentivizing even more people to join the network.
Yeah.
And this well of positive incentive for people to join this network is what gives Bitcoin its worth and its value. And that worth and value is what most of the crypto space is riding upon when you look at the correlation of how all the altcoins react when Bitcoin goes up and down. Because Bitcoin
But let's not go to the altcoins just yet, right?
No,
It's
just-
like,
I
but I
was-
understand in
yeah.
terms of the market. Like what we basically understood is that's how it works. It works on the blockchain principle, and the supply can't be altered, which is the essential differentiating factor from like currency.
Yeah.
So why do people get involved in Bitcoin right now? There's three reasons why basically. In first, they've got like people speculating that crypto will eventually replace fiat. This is people like Asim and myself who are speculating that in the future, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in specific is going to be a currency that's going to be adopted the world over because of simply the mechanics behind it, which we'll be explaining in a later video. But the idea is we trust that it will replace fiat. If it's going to replace fiat, then once the currency conversion happens, because what you're seeing right, what are you seeing with the dollar and the pound and the yen right now, Asim?
As of the date we are recording this video, the dollar is kind of strengthening, but that's because the equity
Yeah.
markets are falling. But generally, as a whole, fiat currencies are on a downward trend because
Yeah.
of incredibly high numbers of inflation and the absolute lackluster management of the financial systems by central banks. So even if we analyze the day-to-day of the financial markets and their movements, you'll be like, who cares? But in the long enough term, your wealth is being destroyed.
Also, straight up, like post pandemic, all of you think about your lives right now and think about the conditions that you've been in and think about whether life has become easier since we've been breaking all these inflationary records. The UK hit an inflationary high in like 40 years. You had Japan hit an inflationary record. These different countries, and Pakistan, of course, our country, has been screwed completely. But the idea is that the currencies are being devalued tremendously, and inflation is at an all-time high in multiple countries around the world. Even the US, for example, before this month, whatever they did with the Fed, which we'll discuss later, but before this month, it was also there was also lots of inflation there as well. So that's the condition that you have right now. People are speculating that Bitcoin will replace fiat currencies eventually because this bubble is likely to pop. So what they're kind of doing is trying to get like a first mover's advantage. The more Bitcoin you can accumulate while it's cheap before it becomes expensive, the better position you'll be in. That's why a lot of people are buying Bitcoin right now because it's a technological sort of guess.
It's exciting as well. So technology aspect of it is very exciting. Because,
because there's like there's Web3 development.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you hope for the future.
Yeah, and like the way they made transactions faster, the way they made the internet faster,
Exactly.
different things that are happening, there's technologies that are linked, constantly different companies are developing. The second reason that they join is that if it doesn't replace fiat currencies, it's going to be, Bitcoin is going to be like an asset, kind of similar to gold.
Yeah.
How can it be like gold in that sense? Like in
Well, you need to understand that gold before fiat currency and before paper money was introduced was the standard currency of the world.
yeah,
And that was because of some reasons. And those reasons are that gold is portable, you can take it around places, it can be easily molded into coins and made into smaller denominations, it doesn't rust, it is easily recognizable, and again, getting back to the supply chain, the supply manipulation thing, you can't manipulate the supply of gold
Yeah.
without putting in intensive efforts to mine the thing in the first place. So, because of gold's these characteristics of gold, it became the standard currency of the world for thousands of years, man.
yeah.
And what were we talking about?
How's it? How will Bitcoin become an asset?
Oh, yeah. So, Bitcoin does all those things that gold did previously, which made it a standard currency, but it does all of them better because of one reason, and that reason is that Bitcoin is digital. If you're talking about Bitcoin as an asset, we are assuming that people will be storing their money into it
Yeah.
to hedge against inflation and all those other stuff. And because of those five characteristics being transferred to Bitcoin, the fact that since it's on the internet and you can take it anywhere in seconds, since it can be easily identified using the hash algorithm we talked about previously, since it's digital numbers, it can't like rust or go bad, and the supply cannot be manipulated. And what was the fifth thing? One of the fifth things. Because of all those five things being solid, it replicates all the great things about gold, but in a better way. So in the future, when everyone is on the internet, everything, all the technology is digital and all our transactions are digital, Bitcoin will essentially become the digital form of gold.
And a faster version of gold.
Exactly.
Because it makes more sense to me.
It'll be better gold.
So that's the second reason why people are buying Bitcoin right now. Third reason is day trading. That's why I got in, which is essentially I saw that the market was volatile and it was going up and down every day, and I was like, yo, there's a lot of money to be made here. So because cryptocurrencies are volatile inherently, the third reason why people get into cryptocurrencies is not necessarily appreciating the technological nuances, which is completely fine, but simply going in to make money.
Yeah.
Get to 200, 300 times the wealth that you've invested. A lot of people invest $100, come out with 1,000. A lot of people invest 1,000, come out with 10,000, and then 10,000 come out with millions. So it's crazy, right? So a lot of people make insane amount of returns. You see the growth rate of Shiba Inu, for example, in 2021. It was the most extraordinary story of growth. The coin's value nearly not quadruple, 10 times, 20 times the value there was initially at the start of the year, and it just kept rising.
Exactly.
So people that had invested like let's say $1,500 in Shiba Inu at the start of 2021 ended the year with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Shiba because of just the growth that they saw in this market. So those are three reasons why people sort of join into this crypto market. Alright, so summing up the discussion, that's pretty much the video, that's pretty much the discussion that we had for today. We'll get funnier, we'll get better, we'll get more lights.
Yeah, we'll change the curtain.
We'll get a better curtain, we'll be better next time. But essentially what we've given you is like giving you brief sort of introduction into Bitcoin, told you about why people started investing in it, right? So essentially it's five things. Number one, what we have to understand is that Bitcoin will only grow as a currency as more and more people start adopting it. It's like a network technology. The more people start accepting Bitcoin, the more likely it is that the rate of acceptance or adoption of this technology increases. So we're here to do that part. We're here to tell you about Bitcoin and tell you about the cryptocurrency world, so you start buying it more and more. The second reason why this is a good thing, or what the thing that's crazy about Bitcoin, is the fact that it essentially allows for a digital ledger to exist, which connects all computers around the world.
Yeah, allowing for transparency.
Allowing for transparency, allowing for transactions to happen anywhere in the world without the presence of intermediaries like banks, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So all of your money is exclusively in your control, in your wallet. You can send it to anybody in the world.
You can receive it from anyone from across the world, and it's free from the influences of the outside parties. And building on that fact, the third point in the summary is that the moment Bitcoin reaches a critical mass of enough people using the network, it has a great potential of becoming the global currency.
Yeah.
And once Bitcoin has become the global currency. The people who bought into it in its adolescence or its
Nascent
infancy,
stages,
in
yeah.
nascent stages, they will make the most amounts of returns purely because of the time they have spent in this
It's
space.
kind of like right now, by the way. So, like right now, how many people own Bitcoin around the world?
In the US, it's around 45 million.
Around 45 million. In the world, it's less than 200 million people.
Yeah, it's still like under 3% or 2%. It's not a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's a very small amount of people that are actually invested in Bitcoin right
Exactly.
now. So, like, if you were to join in the market, anticipate, let's say, 4 billion people, 3 billion people, all of the internet users in the world
Yeah.
start using it. You've joined in when only less than 500 million people were in on it.
Yeah, because the hype for the most part confuses a lot of people and everyone thinks, oh, Bitcoin's everywhere. It's actually not. The hype is, for the most part,
It's all social media.
It's all social media, and you're in like an echo chamber of just Bitcoin bros and crypto bros who are just
talking shit amongst themselves because
Yeah.
nobody else from the outside is necessarily listening just yet.
exactly.
But like more and more, so like you've got the Lakers who've got their crypto stadium right now, crypto.com stadium. So you've got Binance now sponsoring different F1 racing teams. Binance had their thing posted on like Burj Khalifa. They've got like they had their logo and everything.
Or recently?
Very recently, yeah. So and you've got like different companies becoming more and more famous right now, but they still don't have a lot of people
Yeah.
joining them.
Getting back to the summary, the fourth point that we mentioned was that even if all this stuff doesn't happen, if Bitcoin doesn't even become the global currency, at the very least it will become an asset or a risk-on asset that people will be willing to buy because of it proving itself to be a better version of gold. And even if that doesn't happen, the fifth point of the summary is that where we sit right now, there is great potential for you to make money by purely out of trading in and out of these assets if you do it intelligently with a system. So yeah, that was basically the video.
Yeah, and just one point to the point about how it can actually become an asset like gold that people can invest in. Recently, it was announced in the United States that those pension funds that we were discussing in the past, they will invest. There was K1 or something. I don't remember the exact term, but they will also be investing in cryptocurrencies, pension funds in the U.S. The state-approved legislature that allowed that to happen.
I think they're going to be investing in ETFs, so they have like a share of the entire market instead of like a specific.
Yeah, but they're going to be doing it cryptos.
But that would actually stabilize the market a lot if you have like huge institutions like buying into ETFs.
Say it to them.
Well, but yeah, that's the summary of the video.
Alright, we're done. We're gonna keep that in because fuck this guy.
Bye.